Laing, take us through the kind of the end game, so to speak, on Selection Sunday. I got 12 conferences here that are in the main generally what we would call one-bid leagues. Mm-hmm. Okay, American East, SWAC, Southern, Patriot, Summit, Big South, on down the line, Big West, Big Sky, OVC, Ivy. That's 12 teams right there, and we got the last five lines of the bracket, 12 through 16. If that's 12, okay, and that's 20, that leaves 8 spots, but we still haven't filled in the Horizon League, the West Coast Conference, Conference USA, and the MAC, all right, which brings us to 16. Now we're down to the final 4 proverbial spots, just generally speaking. If 16 spots here are full, this is for our exercise. These are the teams we would potentially be looking at to fill those final 4 spots. Let's say Indiana from the Big 10, Kansas State from the Big 12, Pitt from the ACC, Xavier from the Big East, and then any number of teams from these other 4 conferences that may or may not measure up. So from your perspective, without having charts and graphs in front of you, how would this process work to fill in those last few teams? And where would they go? For example, would an Indiana, if they made the field, be a 12, 13, 14, or would they be higher?
How this works, Alvin, is that first of all, we would take the conference tournament champions of each one of those leagues, the AQs.
Right.
And we would establish their nitty-gritty, their RPI, their strength of schedule, big wins, big losses, and we would chart those. And then we would take similar teams from other conferences like Valpo, Green Bay, or Gonzaga, St. Mary's, Tech, Buffalo, Central Michigan, some of those teams, and compare them. How do they stack up? Where would they rank in the overall ranking?
Right.
And then this is called the 4th quadrangle challenge for the committee. And there would be 3 or 4 of us that would pay particular attention to just this, starting early in the week, midweek at the latest, and start looking what's this 4th triangle going to look like. And we know most of the AQs at that time. Their tournaments are finished, and we can start plugging in their data, their RPI, and their strength of schedule, where they would rank. And keep in mind, this is all on a computer program. We can put it on the screen and move things around and compare the nitty-gritties, as we call it, from, say, a Gonzaga to the Summit champion.
You mentioned Gonzaga, if I can interrupt. We have them on this line. Let's say, for example, everybody knows they're a 1 or a 2 seed.
Correct.
But let's say they lose in their conference tournament, and one of these teams they are not going to be down here.
No, they'd be significantly higher.
How does that impact the board?
The impacting the board, in other words, they'd be taken off the 4th quadrangle discussion because they're discussed at a higher level. And possibly a BYU or St. Mary's would then be considered.
How do you differentiate once it gets to that point? Now we're down to Gonzaga's in, St. Mary's in, you know, from 4 spots to 3 spots to 2 spots. You still got some of these teams, you still got all of these teams. What becomes the hair breaker?
Then we look, for example, just continuing that thought, we look at the Big 10 bubble teams. You know, Big 10, the 6 may be already in. We're looking at their number 7. How does their number 7 compare with these teams? And should they be considered? The ACC, we do the same thing in terms of where they come in, so that no team is not considered.